I feel like I personally need to start off with a question about music because that really stood out to me throughout the whole show, but especially what a special ending with David Bowie's Starman. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about your musical selection and also how that tied into your overall storytelling.
It was important to me to have a mix of many different types of songs, and one that was like a perfect mixtape. You know, you have different levels of emotions and feeling throughout the soundtrack. And in making this, proposed mixtape, I knew Starman had to be in it. David Bowie was someone that my dad always played for us, so I was like, Starman is it. So there was a lot of the story that was actually written around the specific tracks.
Well, I guess I also have a question too, because a lot of those were covers as well, so I didn't know how that tied into everything as well, like trying to get a new voice to a classic song.
Yeah, well, also this whole soundtrack is all local Chicago musicians, which was really important to us too. We have, Chicago's Manual Cinema. I'm from Chicago. It's just like a Chicago explosion in a show. So I think that's a cool feature about it. But I think it was important to use a mix of composition as well as covers, just conceptually. Mariko, for me, is set in a time and place kind of in the near future. But we have these songs that are still with us, these records that are still with us. And I guess for me, I think about like this would be my granddaughter going through my old records perhaps. And I would definitely have David Bowie and some like random 80s tunes mixed in there. So I guess that's kind of how things came together.
You talked about working with local Chicago musicians, and also that ties in with you linking up with Manual Cinema. So I'm curious about how that partnership began and how that impacted your creative process.
Well, I had the idea of I just wanted to collaborate with a shadow puppetry group. I think that the art of shadow puppetry is so beautiful, and I was really interested to see how live dance can mix with shadows and just create a spectacular, fantastical world. It was myself and two of the women from Manual Cinema, and we actually wrote it for about a year before we got into the studio. And then we were only in the studio for 5 weeks. It was a really great experience to have an idea, of a little girl in her attic and inspirations here and there, and bring it fully to life.
So how was that bringing shadows into the rehearsal space?
It was just a lot of experimentation, just getting, one of these screens in a dance studio and a few flashlights and just seeing what worked and what didn't work and what portrayed emotion and what didn't so much. So it was just like 5 weeks of little science experiments with shadows.
Has Manual Cinema worked with dance before? Was this new for them as well?
It was, yeah. This whole show is a different use of their medium. They usually use like overhead projectors, and you can see them on stage manipulating all their shadow puppets, and then their work is projected on a giant screen above you. If you would look backstage, it's just like a mess of tiny puppets all around. And there's a very specific system that the dancers have, but I would have no idea how to arrange these things.
It's totally insane, actually. There's over 100 puppets back there, and some of them are, an inch square, so it's just not to lose anything, and some of them are several feet long and very difficult to manipulate. And in fact, like when Manual Cinema works, they don't have the effect of gravity as much because they have a flat surface to work on, and that is transposed onto a vertical surface. And working with a projector, first of all, is a new thing for them, and also having to hold things by hand. It's a totally sort of new technique that they had to develop in order to make it work.
So how did the dancers respond when you're like, all right, we're doing puppets?
If it wasn't for them and their openness to the idea and ability to learn so quickly, and just, openness really, just being open to learning a whole new technique and having the patience to do so that's why the show works, I think.
So also I want to talk a little bit about Hubbard Street 2 as a company and that whole training process, and especially because I know you two both danced with Hubbard Street Chicago. So I'm just curious how that has impacted how you work with the dancers in this company.
They're really strong artists. So just to give you an idea, they're professionals, but like say I have 2 jobs available, there will be 400 people who apply for these jobs, and there will be probably 100 of them that are quite qualified for the job. So they're very sought after spots, and it's a very high level they have to work at. And so for a choreographer who is exploring their craft, it's actually a really great environment to go into because they're very hungry, and they're doing what they want to do, and so it's really kind of a wonderful creative environment where they're willing to do anything, and it gives you the freedom as a choreographer, I always feel, and this is what I try to foster, where you can do anything you'd like to do, and the dancers just always say yes.
In researching for this, I read a lot about the community projects or youth programs, education programs that the Hubbard Street crew does. So could you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, we engage with younger audiences all the time. We go to about 25 Chicago public and area public schools each year, and we perform for them, in their gymnasium or auditorium or whatever they happen to have. And we also then bring them to the Harris Theater, which is our home theater in Chicago, and kind of bust them in and show them also performances every year there. And in addition, it was important for us to create this live performance component that is geared towards children. It's not something that we always do. We create rep that is also for an adult audience, but it's something that's very important for us to build the future audience for dance.